Well, farmers often look to claim deductions when establishing a new business. But to have deductible expenses, there must be a trade in existence, leaving many wondering at what point those costs provide some tax benefit. Roger McEowen with the Washburn School of Law joins us now with some insight. Roger, as always, we appreciate you being here. So what type of expenses and startup costs does the code allow deductions for?
Yeah, well, good to be with you, Suzanne. That's a real good question. Once your business begins, all of the ordinary necessary expenses of operating the business on a basis, the code says, that is regular and continuous and substantial, that you pay or you incur during the tax year, all of those expenses are deductible. But business startup expenses are handled a little bit differently. And it's a complex provision, but basically in the tax year in which your business begins, you can elect to deduct, in essence, $5,000 as startup costs and a rateable portion of any excess.
So the big question, you keep talking about the business when it starts up. When does the business begin? I think that's a big question for folks.
Yeah, that is the key question. So when it begins is based on the facts. So to be engaged in a trade or business, which is what you have to undertake an activity that's intended to make a profit. So you're doing this to make a profit. You're regularly and actively involved in the activity, and you actually have commenced business operations. Plus, the courts have kind of added to that over the years, and they've said, well, you're not engaged in a trade or business until the time at which the business is functioning as a going concern and performing the activities for which you actually organized it. But an activity doesn't have to generate sales or other revenue for the business to be deemed to have begun. And so that's kind of the confusing thing for a lot of farmers. But if you're just researching and investigating a potential type of farming, that's not enough.
Are there limitations on what's considered to be a startup expense?
Well, yeah, there are amounts that you pay or incur to create an active trade or business are startup expenditures. So basically, in essence, it's anything you'd be able to deduct in connection with an active business. And so common types of startup expenses would be maybe advertising costs, salaries, wages, travel-related expenses to go to, for example, shows or extension meetings to get information about how you're to operate your farming business. But your interest expense and state and local taxes and research and experimental expenses, those are not startup expenses.
Okay. Roger, this really does seem so overwhelming. So what do you suggest for people when they're looking to do a startup business? Where do they go? What's step one for them?
Step one is to keep track of all your expenses. That's clearly the best thing you can do. And if you've got different types of activities, maybe I've got a cattle activity here, I've got sheep here, I've got row crop here that I'm trying to get started, make sure you segregate those costs out. That's going to help you a lot more if you ever get audited and the IRS is questioning whether your expenses are startup expenses and also trying to determine when your business begins. But also have a good tax preparer that can guide you on all of that and help you through. If you do that, you're going to get the maximum benefit out of your dollars that way.
Absolutely. Great information, as always. Roger McEowen, we appreciate your time. He's with the Washburn School of Law. Thank you so much.